With time running out before Luca needs to get his transplant, Tony is really reliant on Arman coming through in order to pay for the cost of it. But unfortunately, with Marco now in Las Vegas, there's the question of, is he gonna be a liability or is he gonna be an asset when it comes to Luca possibly getting this transplant and getting to live beyond the weeks that Tony has estimated out? Topic 1 just deals with Marco trying to get acclimated to what's going on in Las Vegas. As we learned in both this episode and the past episode, Tony and Marco aren't necessarily on the best of terms. Before she left, there was an issue of those two sleeping in separate beds. We were told about his gambling issues, and based off of what Mother Donna said in the last episode, it seems that Tony definitely is maybe a little bit angry at the fact that she had to step back from her burgeoning career while Marco, from what it seems, he just didn't take on as much of a role in helping to raise Luca and deal with the fact that Luca is sick. So with that in mind, you can see that in America, without Marco, she's trying to build a life that's independent of him, and I don't think he really appreciates it. In fact, he seems to have thought rather, that with them being months apart, distance will make the heart grow fonder, so when the two actually do meet, they'll be kissing, possibly doing something in private, but with her kind of giving him some affection but curbing him from doing anything more than that, so begins raising red flags. Red flags that even Fiona's kind of raising because she thinks maybe something's going on between Arman and Thony, which she is right. And when it comes to Marco, with hearing about Arman and how he's paying Thony all this exuberant amount of money to clean, so many red flags pop off in his head, and that's going alongside his own insecurities about what he is or isn't contributing to Luca's health. Never mind him definitely having his ego hit a little bit. Hence why his dumb behind decides he wants to go to Arman's club and confront Arman and make it seem like he's here now so Arman could back down or whatever. And Arman, who's not really for all this BS, he just lets Marco know that, I'm doing this for your kid. You, as a father, should be willing to do whatever it takes to keep your kid alive. And with that, Marco is forced to back down in embarrassment, while Thony is just embarrassed because her husband's acting up for, legitimate reasons that we know, but when it comes to Marco, it's not the same. Switching over to Garrett. With Thony screwing him over and embarrassing him to the point where his boss, ASAC Russo, calls the whole situation Melongate, he's really on his grind now to kind of get some form of redemption. Mind you, while having no association with Renee, who is supposed to be his partner. But getting to the point. For about 3 days, he's been studying traffic cam footage to figure out where the guns might have went, and he has pinned it down to a few farms in a secluded area. He goes to Russo about this, about possibly getting a warrant and getting, another team together, but after that last failure, she's a little bit hesitant, so Garrett is forced to go on his own and barely avoid Arman when it comes to getting to these weapons. Now, because he gets in, gets a few pictures, and gets back to Russo, there is this whole idea that maybe, just maybe, this could be enough, but with him going onto the property illegally, she's like, can't touch it. But at the very least, as he said he was going to do before, he decides to plant some information to Thony to mess up the deal, and with that, Thony gets told that they're going to make a move. She reports this to Arman, and with that, Arman shuts down what could have been a $6 million deal for him. For the last topic, let's go a little bit more into this deal and what the repercussions are for it not going, and also what the whole point of doing this deal was. Now, as we've seen thus far, Arman and Hayek aren't necessarily on the best of terms, with him cutting him out of that hotel casino deal and instead installing Isabel and her husband Ben. So with that in mind, it seems that Arman is ready to screw over Hayek, and that whole deal for $6 million, that was supposed to make it so that him and Nadia can head off to some island off the coast of Argentina and through a gentleman named Noah who's preparing for the war for resources, that would be their nest egg that would allow them to go legit. Now, getting Nadia onto this plan seemingly wasn't as hard as you think it would be, since I think in a way she's as tired as Hayek as Arman is, but at the same time she's kind of questioning if this is necessarily a good idea to bite the hand that has long fed them. At least that's what her thought is as soon as she hears that Thony's involved and Arman wants to get $300,000 plus so that her son can get a liver transplant. And mind you, Thony has already lined up a donor through this girl named Dada for $20,000 that was supposed to help with the student loans, but unfortunately, with Garrett planting the seed that messes up this whole thing, Arman can't make his move to possibly go legit. Thony is back to square one, and then to make matters even worse, Marco finds the $20,000 hidden away underneath the sink, and he decides to gamble with it. Now, what is the long-term plan with gambling with it? I'm not 100% sure. Is it so that they don't need Arman anymore? Is it to kind of get back at Thony? It's hard to say. All that we know for sure is that if he loses that money, he'll probably lose Thony just as quickly. The first highlight for us is just Garrett doing good police work. And I have to admit, when it comes to Garrett, as much as certain aspects of his character I don't like, you can't deny that he's a good cop. Officer, detective, whatever the title is, because it's, if you ever meet cops, they get very particular about their titles. Anyway, so with him checking out for 3 days all that footage to figure out with a bunch of traffic cams where things went, him being able to sneak into a compound, farmland, whatever, where the guns are hidden and make it out alive, all this without having a partner, I do think it makes us forced to say that it's not about the show trying to keep up the pace or even Garrett potentially being lucky. He is just simply put good at what he does, and this just further adds his credibility as an FBI agent, rather than, as we've seen in many other shows and even movies, it's seeming that they can just get some evidence within like a couple hours, bust into the place and get the win. With Garrett, I think they're really starting to show that they're pacing this out so that you understand his win, assuming he gets it, is not something that's going to be overnight. It's not going to be something that takes a week. He is dealing with a huge criminal organization, primarily by himself, since he doesn't seem to work well with others. And because of that, it takes time. But when he gets the opportunity, he's going to be on it. And apparently, minus some legality, he's going to get the evidence he needs. The second highlight is just how Thony's desperation is just escalating episode by episode. At this point, you have the issue with Garrett showing that he has no issue calling in ICE and possibly deporting not just her, but also Fiona and other people as collateral, which could mean a complete amount of chaos for everybody in Thony's family, from Luca, who needs to be in the U.S. to get a donor and get all the health care he needs, Chris possibly getting deported to a country he knows nothing about and maybe doesn't speak the language of, and then of course there's the question of Jazz, who might be an American citizen who either gets uprooted and taken to the Philippines, or else she gets with her dad and loses her mom. Just a lot of chaos. But that's not the only thing, because of course you got Luca here, whose tongue and eyes are turning to yellow, orangish colors, which shows that Thony is running out of time. It's no longer months she has, it's starting to become weeks. And then you have to add in, of course, Arman's situation, which is complicated. Garrett is making headway when it comes to Arman, so it's definitely, as much as there's a timeline with Luca, there's also a timeline with Arman in terms of what he can do to help. Then when you add in the fact that Arman is starting to go against Hayek, even though Thony doesn't know that, it makes it so, again, there's a question of, when it comes to Arman, how much longer is he going to be a viable source? How much longer is going to be a viable asset, especially when it comes to money? And now, added in this whole Marco issue, Mako's here on a visa, so he has a limited amount of time being here. And what makes you think that he won't possibly turn in Arman out of jealousy just so that he could possibly, I would say maybe help his son, but at the same time, Garrett has really done nothing for Luca. But at the very least, he could take out the person that's threatening his marriage. And I would think if Marco is dumb enough to take $20,000 and gamble it to possibly get back on Arman, he might be dumb enough to call upon Garrett, assuming he ever figures out who Garrett is and what he's doing, in order to take Arman out and to potentially, in his mind, win his wife back. In terms of on the fence topics, I think the first one has to be Nadia and Arman's relationship, and that's just because for the first time in 7 episodes, we see the two kiss and seem like a married couple and not just business partners. And a part of me appreciates that because it definitely gives you an idea that these two do have something going on that's legitimate, yet at the same time, I feel like we're missing background details. With Arman and Isabel, we get childhood sweethearts, couldn't be together because of her father and because his parents were the help. Set, stone, good. But when it comes to Nadia, I feel like she hasn't been built up as an individual that much. I mean, yes, we know that she cooks the books for Hayek, but and also when it comes to Arman, she's his business partner in terms of smoozing with the clients, but I still feel like her character is so limited and boxed in. What was her life before Arman? He talks almost like if his parents were the gardeners and doing that stuff, her parents were the maid and the butler. But that hasn't been confirmed to us. Alongside that, I don't know why these two are together, how they got together, because I haven't forgotten that we were introduced to having an orgy while her husband was off doing work or something, and him seemingly not giving a damn as long as the house was cleaned. So I need details on how these two got together, why they stayed together. Is it just because she knows too much to divorce her at this point? What's going on here? The second on the fence topic is Marco, and that's just because he's messing up the program. His insecurities, his machismo, his ego, it's one of those things where you understand it's necessary because, it represents all that Thony was trying to leave behind. Yet him bringing in this quiet storm of chaos it's like we said in the last episode. Marco's effect on the show, short term can be good, but long term he can easily become a pain in the ass. And with him deciding to take that $20,000 and gamble with it, I don't know if that's going to be something that's meant to set Thony back so that when this show ends in about 2 episodes, or is it 3? I think it's 2 or 3. 2 or 3 episodes, because it's a 10-episode season. Let's get back on the train of thought. It makes me wonder if long term, if his purpose is supposed to be just to reset things, so when season 2 starts, Thony is in a better position than she was at the series premiere, yet at the same time not as far as she could have been if Marco stayed his ass over in Manila. Overall, I think one of the things I'm asking myself is who's ultimately going to get what they want. Right now, we kind of have 3 different goals that we can clearly see. There's Garrett's goal of taking down Arman and Hayek. There's Arman's goal of possibly going legit, if not taking over Hayek's empire, depending on what episode you're looking at. And the last one is, of course, Thony trying to get Luca a liver transplant to save his life. In my mind, all 3 people can't get what they want. And I wouldn't even say 2 people can get what they want. If Garrett wins, that's the end of things for Arman and Thony. If Arman wins, I feel like Thony doesn't necessarily win because yes, she may get Luca's transplant, and Arman does mention that once the transplant happens, she's free to go. She doesn't have to work for him anymore. Yet, that doesn't mean that Garrett is going to stop chasing her, and with likely Thony being on the books, that doesn't mean Renee can't follow up. That doesn't mean ASAC Russo can't follow up. So, she wins in some ways and still loses in others. And then if Thony gets what she wants without Arman, again, there's no real winning here because as long as she is part of the FBI system as a possible informant, which to my understanding, she is, because Renee knows about her. Not Arman. Renee knows about her. Garrett knows about her. ASAC Russo knows about her. So the only person who can truly win in this is Garrett, and everybody else, if they win, it's not going to end a situation for Thony. It's not going to end a situation for Arman. So they can't do an absolute win. The only person who can get that, and I know I'm at this point doing a tangent, is Garrett. Everybody else will have a short-term win, not a long-term win.